everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this special edition Fiberside Chat. So normally when I do these Fiberside Chats, they happen during the week, but today is a very, very special holiday. So that's something else that gets tied into these conversations. And today is actually the Wool and Fiber Arts second anniversary or birthday. So yay! And so we thought that it would be a great way to celebrate today by doing a kind of like impromptu interview with Ellen to talk about this wonderful group and to celebrate all things WAFA. So Ellen, whenever you're ready, feel free to come and join me on camera. Okay, there you are. And so,
hello.
So what we're going to do today, for those of you that have never joined a Fiberside Chat before, I'm going to ask Ellen a couple of questions, just do a really short, fun interview. We're going to have a conversation about all things fibers. And as we're having our conversation, feel free to put any of your questions in the comment area. And then at the end of the interview, I will go through and read them to her and to the audience so that people can see what you have to say. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me this morning, Ellen. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite. I'm excited.
Of course, of course. Now, today is WAFA's anniversary, the Wool and Fiber Arts anniversary. And, you know, as someone that is both a community member of it and just like an early on lover of it and supporter of it, I have to tell you like how deeply grateful and appreciative I am to you and to all of the founding members in bringing something like this about. It's been fabulous and just it's been a wonderful addition to my life personally. So I thank you for coming up with the idea of it. And I definitely want to ask you where that idea came from. But before I even begin, I have to let everybody know, if you've never been part of the behind the scenes, right? So like you come and you join this group and you see people making posts about the wonderful projects that they're creating and asking questions, and there's just this wonderful sense of community. But if you haven't actually been a vendor or someone that's kind of in the behind the scenes part of what makes this group fabulous, I have to just let you know that it is just a testament to Ellen's personality that this group is the way that it is. And the reason for that is that this morning, this interview wasn't supposed to be until 12 p.m., right? And so Ellen was so gracious. And I said to her, wait, we're going to go on at 10. I totally messed up the scheduling of it. But it was amazing because all throughout my experience again in this group, Ellen has been like a cool cucumber. She's like supported everyone. So it's not even just the fiber artists, it's everybody who is making mistakes for the first time, everybody who's going live for the first time and, you know, they can't figure out what's going on technology wise, right? So Ellen has been amazing both in the front end of the group, but also to all of us that are trying to figure out this as we're, you know, building the airplane in the air, so to speak. But she's just an amazing person all the way around. So just for me personally, a little bit selfish, but I'm so happy that I get to talk to her and ask her all about this group. So, okay, without further ado, I had to put that out there in the beginning because yeah, you're an amazing person. Okay, so my first question to you then, Ellen, is where did this idea of the Wool and Fiber Arts group come from?
Well, probably about a year, 2 years before the shutdown started, I had joined a business mentoring group called the Social Divas, which ended up morphing into the Creators Nook. And my business mentor is Serena, absolutely amazing. And she just created a group that was full of support, full of positivity, women building other women up, building other creators, makers, crafters. So that's kind of where that idea came from, because one of her specialties was being able to go live and sell utilizing Facebook. So when things started shutting down for COVID, friends of mine, and the one that comes to mind off the top of my head is Danielle Wentz of I'm going to get the I think it's Iron Wheel Farm. My brain it's early in the morning for me and I didn't drink all my coffee yet. Danielle talking about the Fiber Festival actually that's taking place this weekend was canceled. big Fiber Fest here in Michigan. That's this weekend was canceled. And so I'm watching all my friends talk about their festivals being canceled. And I know, especially for the farmers, they depend on those festivals to be able to stock up on hay for the season, be able to buy feed, to be able to do improvements on fencing and infrastructure. And they just didn't know what to do. At that time, I was just a very small farm. I was only just starting to dip my toe into doing in-person events. And I thought, you know, I got some knowledge from Serena and I have the time. And why not step up and help these people, see if we can. And originally the idea was just like 1 day, 2 days at the most. We were thinking like a dozen vendors, 2 dozen at most. And it just kept growing. And it all happened within 2 weeks. In 2 weeks,
Wow.
we were able to throw the first 5. Colleen of A Touch of Bunny stepped in. She helped with the scheduling of vendors. And I literally was there talking to each vendor one-on-one to get them through the day, the minute of their sale, to make sure that they knew how to go on live, knew what to do. And by the end of the weekend, we had 65 vendors. And it ended up being
Wow.
2.5 days,
Wow.
all put together in 2 weeks. And it was just amazing. I had so many people reaching out to me, but what a blessing it was. People crying that they could finally get a surgery they didn't think they were going to be able to get because they didn't have the cash and they had to pay cash for it. And that is just so to be of service to others. So where it started from.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's amazing that, you have people that go to business school and they come up with these business models and, they try to like plot and plan and figure all of these things out. Right. But sometimes when you're in a crunch and you're in a situation where it's kind of like push comes to shove and, what can we do? The idea that you came up with not only was, in response to things that maybe you were experiencing on a personal level, but the fact that you were able to rally this whole community behind this idea and the way that you did that, both with your mentors kind of guidance, but also just, I think, again, it just speaks to the kind of person that you are and that you're looking out for everybody, but you're doing it in such a way that allows everybody to sort of like elevate themselves, but also in supporting each other. And it's a very, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word in articulating it, but it's such a like welcoming and wonderful feeling that, I'm struggling and someone isn't trying to take what little I have and, take it away from me, but they're saying here, like, I don't have a lot either, but if we, combine forces, we can make it abundant for everybody. And I think that's just been like the overall driving kind of like, theme of the woven fiber arts, at least from the behind the scenes part. But then on the front end, it's not just about selling, right? So there's so many other different components and factors now that have kind of become part of it. It's almost like it may have started off as a single, fiber sale day event, but there's been so many other wonderful little like pieces and parts that have been combined onto it. So in the past 2 years of, having this wonderful group together, what would you say is your most like favorite part about it, as far as you being a member, but also you being, the leader, so to speak?
I have 2 things. So one thing that's behind the scenes and one thing in front.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
far as the community, watching people share what they're making and see it inspire others. The people that say, hey, I never thought in a million years, I was a crocheter. You know what? After watching all these people spin this beautiful, gorgeous fiber, I went and bought a spindle. And then they start spinning and then they want to knit. And then they go get a spinning wheel. And then you see 6 months later and they're trying needle felting. And then 3 to 6 months later, oh, let's try some weaving or a peg loom. So watching people experiment and try new things, that has been one of the most fulfilling part of this from the community standpoint. From behind the scenes and a vendor standpoint, watching other vendors step up and mentor and help other vendors, whether it's sharing information with them, sharing their time with them, sharing their expertise with them, so that we all can get better. We can all learn more, collaborating that information in time. that's been one of the most fulfilling parts for behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, you know, in the sense that a lot of times, especially with COVID, I think that the, you know, whole timing of the creation of the group and, you know, people feeling this sense of isolation and not being able to maybe be part of guilds or, you know, doing the things that they love, maybe finding that sourdough baking is not necessarily as exciting as one could, you know, anticipate after looking at everyone's posts about it. I don't know, does anyone still have sourdough sitting on their couch? I don't know about that. But hopefully people still have their fiber tools, right? They have this need to kind of return to the act of handmaking, of doing things that kind of not necessarily like time fillers, I would say, but just, you know, maybe we had these passions or these curiosities that we didn't really have time to before because we were kind of so busy, you know, with our lives. And I think that, you know, for some people and in some ways, you know, COVID obviously has been a very devastating element to our lives in one way, shape, form, or another. But I also think that there really has been a lot of positives that have come out of it that maybe, you know, we're not really hearing about as much, right? And I think that this group is definitely one of them. I mean, I know that it was even featured in a couple of like newspaper articles, right? And there were people that were like even outside of the group talking about how wonderful it is that this group exists because, you know, we're bringing people together to not only like teach them and get them excited about the fiber arts, but again, it's this place where you can come and share stories, community and camaraderie. And there is this really beautiful element of that maybe people wouldn't have been drawn to or would have found time for, you know, if they were still in that, you know, rat race mentality or that, you know, the before time, so to speak, right? So I think that definitely having this place where we can learn, you know, how to do things like Zoom. I know that some people will have the camera on and the mic on and they don't know to mute themselves. And so we've all been learning these kind of like online etiquette, you know, components and how does one present themselves during a live and all of that. But you're right. I definitely think that being able to lean into each other and have that vulnerable feeling together, not only in the, you know, going live and stuff, but also like, I don't know how to crochet, you know, does anyone else have that, you know, fear or trepidation about starting to crochet and having someone be like, oh yeah, like, don't worry about it. Like I can show you, or like, these are the things that I made and you can do it too. And I think that that's such a beautiful way of making us feel connected, even if we're not in the same physical space. And I think that's one of the things that's so cool too, is that it's not just that this group is made up of people that belong to a guild, you know, in one specific geographical place, that really all of the members from here come from all over the world. So which country or which like location of a member was really interesting or I don't know, I guess like inspiring to when you realize, oh wow, we have people from, you know, Tanzania, or like what places have you heard about members coming from that really excited you?
Some of the Asian countries and Australia, because Australia is my dream destination. So that was just exciting when we could see how many people were from all over the world.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's really cool too, because, you know, when you're interacting with people that are local to you, for the most part, I would say that they have not like a local mentality, but maybe like if you're in a region, like there might be some people that gravitate towards one type of fiber, right? Like if you didn't know about fibers that exist in different parts of the world or like different regions. So I know that you have a farm. Could you just tell us like what kind of fiber that you have? Because today, in addition to today's holiday of it being WAFA's second anniversary, it's also National Farm Day. So since I know you have a farm, the only herd that I have is cats. So I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit about your herd.
Zephyr Creek Farm, we are in the Thumb in Michigan. So anybody from Michigan will know this is how we tell people where we live. We're about an hour and a half north of Detroit, and we raise Romadale CVM sheep. We also have, we added BFL and T-swatter to the farm last year, just a few sheep, and rabbits, Angora rabbits. But the sheep are my passion. I just absolutely love the sheep. I love their mentality. I grew up on a farm in a homesteading type environment with 3 generations. So it is in my blood as far back as you can go. Much of our family is from Scotland. And yes, They were shepherds even in Scotland. So that was exciting to find, because we grew up thinking that we were all Irish. And so to be able to find those roots actually in like the last 5 years, and I have pictures of like great grandparents, the original photography with their sheep and their herding dogs. So that was very exciting. But we wanted to select a breed that was on the Livestock Conservancy list. And so, oh gosh, I think it was like, I studied that list for about 2 years, the different breeds. I reached out to breeders, talked to so many different people, talked to spinners, because I wanted information feedback from spinners on the fibers that they liked the most. And that's how we ended up selecting the Romadale CVM. And since that point, our original foundation stock was from 2 different farms here in Michigan that often work together to put breeding packages together, unrelated breeding packages. And since that time, we've started bringing in rams from the West Coast to bring in some new bloodlines and selection processes. And that has been very exciting. In fact, we have a new ram coming in this year. If you've ever heard of the Foggy Bottom Boys, they also raise Romadale CVM, and they are a regenerative ag farm. We could only hope to be as successful as they are, but we are implementing many of those same practices here on our farm, such as intensive grazing, where we're moving the sheep anywhere from 12 to 48 hours, depending on how large of a space they're on, the grass growth in the season. But all of our farm decisions are made on the health, the quality of the soil, being able to sequester carbon, and just be a good place for the animals and for the earth.
Okay, now like all of that sounds amazing, right? But like as someone that has not been on a farm, the idea of bringing in a sheep from the West Coast to Michigan, I'm curious, like how do sheep get transported? Like, is it by air, by like car? Like, do you go and like have like a little, safety seat for him on your car next to you? Like, how do you get a sheep to you?
There are professional transporters that bring sheep out, but what we have been able to do is to coordinate when there are sheep shows. So many of the breeders, sheep show people from the East Coast or from the Midwest will head out to the West Coast. And so then they'll, on their way back, they'll pick up sheep, bring them out, and then we go pick them up from there. So we only have, maybe a few hours journey versus needing to cross the entire United States.
So
we have a couple families that we've been working with for.
Yeah. So is it like a horse trailer, but for sheep, or is like you hire someone like Vin Diesel? Like
Yes.
how does the transporter, or like what like how does that work? Is there like a little
It's a live trailer.
Okay.
It's livestock, sheep's livestock trailers.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just like imagining like a sheep sitting in the passenger seat of like a Corvette being like, okay, like we got to get you right away to the farm because people want this fleece and we got to get there right now. So that's cool. Okay. So as far as where
I have done that.
Oh, you have? That's funny. So as far as like where the Wool and Fiber Arts group is now, right? So we're 2 years in, and I know, like you said, it was just a day event when it first started. But what are some of the things that are going on like right now that you're excited about having happen?
We started up a scholarship program for vendors. So that's something that people in the community are not seeing, but it is a way for vendors to take educational classes, workshops that might not have been able to do on their own. So we've done that for a few months already, and now we're at the evaluation process, and we're looking for more opportunities for vendors, classes that they would be able to take so that they can grow their businesses. So that has been really exciting. And then the other thing that I see happening for the future is more collaborations between fibers and vendors. So I know quite a few times, I'll purchase different fleece from the different farms, send them to the mill to be processed, and then turn that around and be able to sell that. And eventually what I would like to see happen is where we can work together and actually get finished objects made. So be able to collaborate on fiber, be able to send that to mills and be able to get hats and socks and different items like that.
Yeah, so like when you're talking about that, even the idea to me of, like we have yarn stores, right, that will source yarn from different shepherds or different mills and things like that. But it would be really cool. I don't know if this is ever an idea in your head, so take it or leave it, right? But the idea of having maybe even like a woven fiber arts store where like all of the vendors, like a co-op, or I don't know what the model would be, but like the idea that you could actually go to a physical location and like buy all of the wonderful things that we have online. That would be kind of cool too. That would be like a fun road trip, pit stop. Okay, I want to actually go and like touch all of the things, because there is the joy of smelling a fleece, and there's the tactile and sensory input that can be kind of difficult, when we're looking and experiencing things through a screen. So, what are some of the tips that you've suggested to people to really get them to, as far as like the vendors go, so that people can really have that in-person, experience, even though we have this kind of like screen between us?
Being able to, we're always encouraging the vendors go live as much as possible so people can see you, they can hear your voice, they can get to know who you are as a person. And we're not talking about like sell. We're talking about what's going on the farm, what's going on in your dye studio, to really get to know each other in person as much as we can through a screen.
Yeah, and it's also great too, because when you have someone in the group that is then going and buying like one of your fleeces and then spinning it up, then people can actually see the process from start to finish. And I think like if you go to a traditional, fiber event, maybe you go see the fiber, but you don't actually see what the people that purchase those things actually do with it. So from the buyer's perspective, or from the fiber artist perspective that's looking at all of the goodies, right? You're not only getting to see what is available, but you're also getting to see all of the wonderful ways that people are using those products. And then as a vendor, you're able to really see like the end product, right? And I think that's one of the things that I've talked about in other Fiberside chats that I find so fascinating about the fiber art world, is that you as a shepherd, like you're making a product for someone else to use. So in general, like a fleece wouldn't necessarily be considered, a final thing. I mean, maybe like if you have like a pelt or something for like a chair or whatever, right? But the idea that you're making this fiber so that someone else can use it. And then if they're a spinner, right, maybe they're then making the yarn so for a knitter or a crocheter or a weaver to use it. And it gets to pass through so many different creators' hands. And what you were speaking to about paying attention to things like what the sheep are eating and, where their genetics are coming from. Like those are things that as a spinner, I may not even consider to be an important part of the experience of spinning. Like, why do I enjoy this fiber so much? It's not just because it's soft, right? But it's also because of the care and the love that the shepherd or shepherdess put into raising this animal. So the health of the animal and all of that, and I think that, like you said, being able to see the farms and the way that the animals are treated and getting to know the personalities of the people that, have these animals, it's really letting me know that, there is a difference between a sheep that's living its whole life in, a factory kind of environment versus actually like having a loving home, even talking to some of the vendors and hearing how, they have these like oddball sheep that are like missing body parts or have like quirky personalities, that they're still loved and they're still cared for. So it just has a very different, I think, level of appreciation that I have for where the fiber comes from, and not just necessarily wanting to go and buy something because it's cheaper or because it's, commercially made, but it's like, wait, like I can make choices with where I'm buying my fiber. And not only am I going to get a good quality product, and not only am I going to be supporting someone that is, a local person to me, or like at least in the States, right? It's like a US vendor for the most part. But we're also supporting the sustainability and like the animal husbandry. And there's like so much that we're doing with our choices of where we spend our money. And I think that's something that maybe we don't always consider, that really does have a big impact, in how we choose to craft.
I completely agree.
Yeah. And so I think that's like a really important part too. And then you were talking about like the sustainability part. So could you speak more to that as far as like the animal husbandry and like the practices of farms, like, because I'm just kind of curious about that.
I am new to regenerative ag, so I can share what we are doing, but
Mhm,
it's just a very, very small piece of the big puzzle.
mhm,
We are definitely in the beginning of the learning phase, but every decision is made by the health of the soil. What does that mean? It means we don't till. It means that we are moving the animals quickly. Why? When we move the animals, it actually promotes more grass growth. It promotes stronger roots. It increases the organic matter that's in the soil because as they're eating, they're fertilizing as they go. It's staying right there in that one place and going back to the soil. This improves we all know about gut health now. We're learning about, the bacteria and everything that's in our stomach. The soil works the same way. So there's bacteria, there's fungi, there's all this stuff that's supposed to be in the soil. Um, Things like dung beetles. Well, many of the farms out there now don't have dung beetles anymore, including my own farm. Why? Because we tilled so much. Every time we till, we damage the soil. There are times when tilling is good that we
mhm.
need to as a way to restart. But in general, it's not good it does damage every time that we do it. So we want to promote all that good stuff growing in the soil, just like we want to promote all that good bacteria growing into our stomach. That digests all of the organic matter that's there. That increases the sponginess of the soil. So now when it rains, it can absorb that water instead of getting water runoff or instead of getting water sitting on top of the soil. When we see water sitting on top of the soil, that's telling us we don't have enough organic matter in that soil to absorb all that water, unless it's just like some gigantic water event, of course. We want that water to be absorbed and we want the land to hold that water in place. That way, when we have drier times of the season, that water is still there in the soil. When we grass cover, that helps protect the soil so it can hold on to that water and it doesn't evaporate off as quickly. So when we get into for our area, we have a dry season in July where there is very, very little water most years. We can go 6-8 weeks without water sometimes. So we want that soil to be as healthy as possible to hold onto that water so we still have growth, we still have grass growth. And then by moving them so often, what happens when you just throw sheep or any animal out into a large pasture? Well, they go eat their favorite stuff first. And then they go eat their second favorite. And then they go eat their third favorite. And then they go eat their fourth favorite. Well, what most people don't think about, the quality of the nutrients in those drops as they get down to their fourth favorite, their fifth favorite, their sixth favorite. The nutritional quality drops. That means they're really not getting all of their nutritional needs filled by that. So when we move them often, there's competition. So they just eat what's in front of them because they know, hey, if we don't eat this now, it may not be here when I come back around. And so we move them in small, a lot of times they're in 50 by 100 or 100 by 100 area that we're moving so quickly. So they just go boom, they go in, they eat whatever's there. So they're getting a combination of first, second, third, fifth, sixth, all at the same time in the same moment. And then they're on to the next day. So we
Wow.
can control how much they're eating, or it could be 12 hours. It depends on how much growth is there. We make the decision in the moment, depending on what the conditions are at that moment. And then that land gets to rest anywhere from 30 to 60 days before it will see animals again. So it has time to grow, to recover from being grazed, but it also has that energy and time for those roots to grow deeper and deeper. And as those roots grow deeper, then when we do have dry times, or if, think the deer or other animal are coming in and grazing after the sheep, it's easier for it to recover. The plant is stronger because the roots are stronger.
Yeah, to me, that's so fascinating because, I know that, just even the idea of a farmer being able to take a vacation or a break, right? Like it's such a commitment when you have animals, just like if you have a pet, but more so because you have more of them. So the idea that you're so committed, not even to just feeding them, but really to consider how you feed them, what they're eating, how the conditions of the environment impact their lives, because ultimately then it does influence the fleece, right? Like you can tell the difference between, because you said you have the CVM Ramada. So if you looked at other shepherds that have those similar sheep, would you be able to tell which ones had that quality food versus not, just by the fleece?
There are so many variables that go into that. Some people may say they can tell, but I wouldn't want to assume, because you're going to have nutrition, you're going to have stress levels. You could have predators coming in that could make a weak spot. You could have sickness. There's so many things, the genetics alone. So when you throw all of those into the pot, now maybe if you take one farm and you compare them amongst themselves, then it's easier to see if you've got one fleece that's weak, but everybody else is good, and be able to make some decisions on that. But I would be hesitant to compare one farm against the other, because you don't know what all the variables are.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know, like as a spinner, you know, how, like, I know that there are qualities about the fleece that you can judge, but, you know, knowing all of the things that influence what could make it a good fleece, just that sounds like there's so many layers to that too. And all of this. Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, one thing that I found really fascinating about sheep's fleece that I didn't know about. When you're talking about the way that different environmental factors could influence a sheep and their fleece, that I was doing this dyeing experiment and I saw that when I dyed a portion of the fleece, right? So like it came from the same animal, the color of it came out very pale. And then I took the same fleece that came, or not the same fleece, but the same flock from the same flock, right? The shepherd had produced comb top. So then I dyed that and the color was actually different. And so then when I bought the yarn from the same vendor to dye, or the same shepherd to dye, that was even darker. And I thought it was really fascinating how someone said that there's the different parts of the sheep will absorb dye differently, even not even like the sun bleached tips and all of that, but just like the characteristic of the hair on the different parts of the sheep are so different that when you go to dye, for example, like the neck hair versus the belly hair, the color absorption could be different. And therefore, when it gets blended in with its buddies, you know, the other sheep that are around it could be different. And then the yarn could be different too. So just even how, you know, the stress of one sheep could impact, you know, the way that the overall yarn looks, or just even the health of one sheep could influence that. All of that is so fascinating to me, that there are, again, so many different components and parts of the creation process that, like, the shepherds have such a hand in enhancing that experience for us as the fiber artists to use those products. So that's one of the things that I think is also really awesome about this group, is that there's so many different types of fiber producers. Like, it's not just sheep. So what are some of the other fibers and fiber vendors that you know of in this group that you think make it such a well-rounded place?
Well, with Wafa, it was the first time ever, now hopefully I pronounce this correctly, I had ever heard of guanaco. Is that how we pronounce it? With Lisa has those. I'd never heard of that fiber before. So that was absolutely fascinating for me as a fiber artist, as many years as I've been in this, and I had never heard of guanaco. I believe that we have a few vendors that also have yak. I know Hidden Pastures has quite a few different fiber animals that maybe are not of the norm. So it's been really fascinating to, I mean, just the amount of sheep breeds that we have within the group. I think I went through and counted, and at one point we had like 90 different sheep breeds being represented in the group.
Wow. That's incredible. That is really incredible.
It's like, so I want to sample from all of them, but I don't.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know, do we have any people that actually will like have like silkworms, as you know, because I know when I've been to a couple of fiber festivals, I've seen people will have like fish tanks with like the silkworms, and I was wondering if like if you know of anyone in the group that is a silkworm farmer, if that's what they're called. I don't know the term.
That one I don't know of. I know Ancient Fibers sells seed to grow your own flax.
Okay.
So that's one of our vendors that sells flax. Natural Cycles, I believe, is going to have seeds for some dye plants available from plants that she's grown. So that's
wow, that's
awesome. A little bit out there. Yes, we have a few vendors that do a lot of natural dyeing. Teddy has shared so much amazing information on that. So that's, you know, stuff that I don't see in my everyday life that I probably would not have been exposed to without Wafa.
Yeah, no,
I've actually thought of adding.
Yeah, no, I was gonna
I've thought
say,
of
I
adding
think
a few
it's
plants myself.
fascinating when people will actually like grow their own dye gardens and, you know, like thinking about, again, when you're talking about the land and the sustainability of it and, you know, like tilling and taking care of it, like even your dye, this is something that I thought was always cool about natural dyeing, is that depending upon like the weather and the season, just like for the sheep, you can get different colors, you know? So it is really fascinating how being part of this group, I think also is amazing, because it goes beyond, like at a fiber festival, you're just there in kind of this like consumption mentality, right? Like I'm here to consume, but with the Wool and Fiber Arts Group, it's like not only can you consume physical products, but you can also consume knowledge, right? Like you can learn more, not only about the source of where your purchases are coming from, but also like just the information about the product in general, you know, and I think that's another like rich resource that we have here. So for those people that might be a little bit new, can you let people know how can they find out information? Because I know sometimes people will say like, oh, how can I see videos, or how can I, you know, find out more information? So like, where are the places that people can go to get information about all of the goodness that the Wool and Fiber Arts Group has?
The best places is to sign up for a newsletter. We try to send that out every single week, and you can go to our website, which is woolandfiberarts.com, and have the option to sign up for the newsletter. We will have one going out tomorrow. We are just getting up and going on that newsletter, trying to grow it, so one step at a time. But we have a theme every single month. We pick a breed for the month to discuss. This month it is Targi, which is a fiber that I absolutely love. So we try to add information about that in the newsletters. Alanna is generous enough to share some tips on dyeing or fiber arts with us each month. We share the different events because we have like spin-ins, craft-ins that go on Zoom meetings, you know, as a alternative to guild meetings if you're not able to go in person. So we have that stuff that goes on all week long. And of course, we have the demos that happen in the group. Teddy puts together a graphic for us. It doesn't always have all of the demos that are going to be, but the vendors that were able to give us the information in time for the newsletter get put on that for the week. So that goes out in the newsletter, but that's also posted in the group. So if you're just in the group and you're not signing up for the newsletter, the best place to go is check out those announcements, depending on what version of Facebook you have, because depending on where you're at and what device you're coming from, your version of Facebook could look completely different than what I have, completely different than what Alanna has. So at the very top, underneath the banner, there should be an option for featured or announcements. We try to post anything important in there to give everybody a heads up on what's going on.
Yeah,
and then we try to use hashtags for the month.
Yeah, I have to tell you that the beauty of Facebook is amazing, because it has all of these like tools and resources to bring us together, but it constantly changes. And so, you know, I think that it's amazing, again, that in the past 2 years, between having events and learning the difference between a page and a profile and a group and all of that, because I know sometimes the pages can have the vendors going on there, right? So like learning where to find all of the information can be, you know, really a little bit daunting, especially if you're not, you know, submersed in the Facebook culture. So if this is something that you would like to like learn more or engage more with all of the things that the group has going on, it's really great to know, okay, so the newsletter and the website and the pin post at the top, those are all the places where, you know, we can get the information if we're new to the group. So I know that, you know, we're almost out of time here, so I'm just going to go and check and see if there are any questions in the group, and I will relay them to you. So give me a second to go through and see. Okay, so it looks like there's a lot of comments. All right, so let's see here. Okay, going down, hang on. So just everybody is saying good morning to us and saying happy birthday to the Wool and Fiber Arts Group. Just seeing if there's any questions. So someone said, artists are a crazy bunch too. Ellen kept me grounded. Still nerves hit every sale, but have met a ton of amazing ladies. And someone said, in WAFI, I feel like I found my tribe. Thank you. Even if it's led me down one rabbit hole after another. Definitely. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. People were saying, so happy I found this group. Even if not purchasing from one designer, I have learned from watching. Thank you and happy birthday. And someone else said, WAFA helped so many of us survive COVID isolation. Thank you. Definitely. Cheers to that. Someone else said, the other amazing thing about your creation of WAFA is that it brought hope. COVID was a time of great sadness and depression for so many, and these live sales have given so many people hope and something to look forward to and brought happiness. Thank you. So yeah, it just seems like there's a lot of, you know, like the connection and the struggle and the joy of going through the changes and the shifts with COVID, really, that the Woolen Fiber Arts Group has been such an amazing resource to so many, both like the vendors as well as the group members. Oh, someone said, Alanna, exactly. I love that about knowing about the sheep. Yeah, see, so the idea that when we get to know about where the fiber comes from, I think it just makes a totally different experience. Like, I think for me, one of my favorite things is when I get a fleece from a shepherd and it has a little note or like a little picture of the animal and says, oh, like this one is from Roberto or like whoever is the sheep. And it's like, oh man, I'm spinning Roberto. That's awesome. Okay, let's see here. Someone said WAFA is definitely the silver lining for the pandemic dark cloud and will far, far outlast it. And someone said, I didn't even realize there was an email newsletter. See, so there you go. Now there's more information about where to stay connected. Okay, so there's a couple of questions. So 2 questions. One person said, as a community member, other than supporting a vendor by purchasing their product, how else can we help?
Go like the vendors' pages. That's a big comment. Even in the group, comment on anything that's happening on the page. That helps to, because the way that Facebook works, the more comments on the post, the larger percentage of people that belong to the group or that follow that page will actually get to see it. Under normal circumstances, only about 5 to 10% of the following will see what's happening in the group or happening on a page. But once it starts gaining more comments, once it's shared more, Facebook will start pushing that out to more people. So just by commenting or sharing makes a big, big, giant difference. Even just sharing that morning meme that Erica puts up, that really helps. You got to share it from the page, not the group. So if you see it posted in the group and you click on the picture and then click on share, that makes sure it shares from the page, because the group is now private due to Facebook changes. It's just doing that, encouraging other people in the group. When you see somebody's trying something new, comment, give them some, share some love with them. You know, we are often very hesitant to share something when we're trying something brand new. And we can often be very hard on ourselves. I know I am, so I'm going to extend that grace to everybody. And it can be hard to share that stuff because you're excited that you did it, but you're also, oh, it's not as good as I had hoped it would be. Or I can see, you know, nitpick everything that's not as perfect as I would hope it was. So by sharing them some love with them, that can really, really make a big difference in somebody's life, make a big difference in somebody's day.
Oh, definitely.
So those are ways that you could just support.
Yeah. And like, also, you know, I don't know if people know this or not too, but like if you as a vendor start to overshare the same content, then it actually will start to limit who gets to see it too, right? So by having other people help us and, you know, share our page, like our page, share the things that we create, that definitely makes it so that more eyes can get on our product, which in turn is better for everybody, right? Because if you really like the products that the person is creating, then it just helps them out in ways that you probably won't even realize. And it's free. It might cost like a second of your time in that sense, but for the most part, you know, it really does help. And you know, it doesn't have to be something that, you know, takes a lot of time. It's just a little bit, and that's a great way to help out. Okay. And then someone else said, question, how is the monthly colorway picked? Do you take photo submissions from non-vendors?
At this time, it's vendor submissions, because we have to know that they own the photo rights to it. So it's a lot easier to do that with people that we know and with a small group of vendors to be able to have that trust, because we don't want to get into any trouble with having the rights to a picture and showing it. And then the vendors vote on the picture that they want for that month.
Yeah, and it's been interesting too, especially in this group, as far as the Facebook rules go, because in being behind the scenes, obviously, like I'm not a fiber vendor myself, like I don't have sheep and stuff, but it was also interesting to me too, like how there are certain words we can use that might get like flagged, and I don't know if we like say them in this conversation if that will get us banned or whatever, but there's certain like animal like words you use, right, that can get you banned or not. So like, what would you say has been maybe one of the struggles or one of the frustrations in having the Wool and Fiber Arts group be specifically in this platform?
Is
So there's too
Facebook
many to
constantly
list.
changing? Is that Facebook is constantly changing, and that what you see on your Facebook could be different than what I see. Those have been the two biggest struggles, because we try to educate the people that are in the group, but the problem is what if I see is different than what they see, it might not make any sense.
Yeah, and you know, it's not even just from like an iPhone to an Android, but it's also on a tablet, on a desktop, you know, so all of those nuances are so different. And with, I think, the different social media platforms trying to compete with one another, they're trying to, you know, be what their competitors doing, but also come up with like a novel thing. So then the rules keep changing and all of that. So that can definitely be frustrating. But I think that, you know, all of the vendors, yourself included, are doing a fabulous job in trying to stay on top of that while also making sure that their animals are getting fed and answering people's questions and just trying to, you know, be the octopus with all the arms going and keeping the whole ship moving along. So, okay, I don't think there are any other questions. So with that, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the members in this live before we conclude for today?
I would just love to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to the vendors. Thank you to you, Alanna, all the amazing teachers, to our community for participating, because it's everybody working together, supporting each other, that's made this community what it is. It's not me. I'm just a regular person. It's so many people coming together and sharing the same vision and passion. That's what's made it work. It can't work because of one person. It's the amazing people that have been drawn together, that encourage each other, that celebrate our passion of the fiber arts. That's what's made this community.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I also think too, again, you know, I know you're not someone to toot your own horn, but really, you know, the effectiveness of a group, right, it comes from the top down. And so the fact that, you know, you've given this everything, you know, from the beginning, and just your whole attitude about, you know, helping people and having everybody kind of uplifted together has also been an amazing example of how to do not just the fiber arts, but also business models too really well. So thank you so much for your leadership and your demonstration of like, not only do as I say, but also do as I do. So you've been amazing for that as well.
Thank you.
No problem, no problem. So thank you everybody for joining us for this second year birthday anniversary of the Wool and Fiber Arts Group. And if you would like to check out any of the other Fiberside chats, you can just go ahead and look at the hashtag Fiberside Chats. They will pop up. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing our traditional time at 1 p.m. on Monday. I'm going to be interviewing Julie of Fresh Lotus Design. So come and join us for that one. If you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to just tag Ellen or myself in the comments if you have any questions, or if you want to let us know anything about what you've seen today. And I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow and in the group. So take care, everybody, and thank you again so much, Ellen. Okay, bye-bye.